Hello everyone, welcome to some American Truck Simulator. It's been quite a while since I've done a voiceover video, but we'll see how this goes. So today we're driving the Mack Superliner. This is a fairly old truck, and it's the very first modded truck that I installed in my game when I started playing. It's still one of my favorites to drive today, just because it's so unique. It's very different from anything you'd find sold today. Under the hood is a Cummins NH220. Which is an engine mod that I made myself. It's released on the Steam Workshop if you want to go look for it. This engine makes just 220 horsepower and a little over 600 foot-pounds of torque, which by modern standards is absolutely nothing. Modern pickups make almost double that in an engine half the size. But when this engine was available in 1959, that was quite impressive. So this truck would have come with most likely two transmissions, a 4 or 5 speed main box and a 4-speed auxiliary. I'll be running the Eaton Fuller 10-speed today, since this truck only gives me options for 10 or 18. We're going to run the 10-speed. I am using a Tech Affliction Mega Shifter here. And this is an 18-speed shift knob with both a range select and a splitter, but because I'm running the 10-speed layout, I will only be using the range select. Now, a bit of forewarning, I am used to the 13 and 18-speed shift layout, which is a little different from the 10-speed. And there's a good chance along the way that I'm going to miss a gear and go to the wrong gear, and you'll hear some grinding. So you'll just have to bear with me as I get used to the 10-speed shift layout, which is a little different. The main difference being first gear in a 13 or 18 is straightforward. First gear in a 10-speed is left and back. So if you see me shifting here thinking I'm going into first gear, that's probably what's going on. Our load today is a digger, which weighs about 16,500 pounds, which hopefully should be well within this engine's capabilities. On a flat level terrain, it should have no issues pulling up to 50,000 pounds, but that gets reduced somewhat on a grade. So we're going to take a bit of a lighter load because our load today is going to Mexico. I recently installed the Viva Mexico map mod. And as you can see, I haven't crossed the border yet. I'm actually sitting there right now. And we're only going to be going about 315 miles over the border into Mexico. But just having a look at this road here, I feel like it's going to be a very slow, treacherous 315 miles. And I'm fully expecting this delivery to be late. There's a whole lot more to this mod. Come all the way down here. This is all new down here. And I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but for now we're just going to get our feet wet and cross the border a little bit and see what's out there. So I'm going to go ahead and start this up and head out, and I'll join you guys in a minute. Alright, and we're off to a good start by missing our first turn, but no problem. So there's really not much to this truck. A lot of older trucks, I mean, you just had your analog gauges, which I absolutely love. There was definitely no such thing as an in-dash GPS or infotainment or anything like that. You still have your split windscreen, which I kind of like. And I'm grinding just about every single gear here. There we go. Still getting used to downshifting in this. It's a little bit different. Oh well. I'm running unsynchronized transmission right now, so I've turned off synchronizers in the config in my profile, which means if I miss a shift, I'm basically starting over. I don't have a whole lot of choice other than to slow down and stop unless I can find it. That's better. Now we're moving. So you can see this engine really likes to rev. Most of the engines that you're used to using in this game will run from about 1,000 RPM up to about 1,500, and you'll want to shift there. But that's because they're turbocharged. They make a lot of power down low, and that's where they're happiest. Power drops off rather quickly once you get above 1,500. In this engine, it's naturally aspirated, which means no turbocharger, no supercharger. It just brings in as much air as it can naturally through its intake. Much like most, well, it's getting less common now, but most passenger vehicles on the road. What it means for this engine is that all of its horsepower is made at very high RPM. 2100 RPM is where it makes peak horsepower. So if you're on a hill, I'm going way too fast for this road. Let's slow it down some here. Yeah, we are a danger. That's better. I'm not actually used to going that fast in this engine. So anyway, here we are in Mexico. So far, very interesting scenery. I've heard that... I watched a video from Squirrel just recently, and he was saying that the terrain is quite varied and there's actually a lot of different types of terrain to see. I'm looking forward to a bit of a change from the New Mexico desert in American Truck Sim. One of the things about this truck, I mentioned the split windscreen, that people complain about the lack of visibility, but honestly I don't really have any issue with it. What I do have a bit of an issue with is the mirror visibility. Even my hood mirrors are way out there. My side mirrors, I have to look all the way over here to see them. And with my low field of view setting, it's a little bit jarring. I've got to take my eyes totally off the road. I'm not used to that. But that's because the sleeper on this thing, which I don't have equipped right now, is quite wide, and you need to have those mirrors all the way out there to see around it. Let's try that again. There we go. But when you do get a look out there, you have a really nice view. They're out so far. All these little trees everywhere, very different from New Mexico, Arizona. I'm wondering if I'm missing a texture there, or if those are supposed to be green. Bright green tree trunks. Oh, it could just be my headlights. I actually had my brights on. Still, they look awfully green. This is actually a reasonable cruising RPM for this engine. I'm sitting here at 1900. It's a little high, but you know, cruising at 16 to 1800 is not unusual for this engine at all. Like I said, all your power is made way up high, so you want to stay above 1500 if you can help it, so you have power when you need it. One of the things I do like about this truck is it's the only one where I have the GPS up high like this. In most trucks you've either got it down here in the dash, so there's no point in adding your own, or you can put it over there in the corner, but maybe that's about it. But I do like that I have this one way up here. It's the only truck I've set up this way, and it more closely resembles where I mount my phone for maps in my real truck. So we're doing a cool 35, where the speed limit is 55, and honestly, with the look of this road, I'm okay with that. I'm expecting this to get a little squirrely at some point. Probably going to have a bit of a backup behind us, but that's okay. So I started playing American Truck Simulator about 6-7 months ago. No, it'd be a little over 7 months ago. No, actually, it's earlier than that. Geez, I started playing it last year in October. And I started with a Xbox 360 controller, which honestly worked fine. You know, aside from the lack of buttons that it has on it, 360 controller works well. You get analog control over steering, you get analog control over your accelerator and your brake, and it makes for a really smooth driving experience compared to the tap, 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 tap nature of a keyboard. But I realized after I was something like 50 hours into the game that I probably wasn't going to stop playing it anytime soon, that I was actually having more fun than I ever expected to have with the game. And at that point I waited for Black Friday sale and I ordered a wheel. So I've got this Logitech G920. and it's been mounted to my desk and used almost daily ever since. I've now logged close to 400 hours in American Truck Sim and some 250 in Euro Truck as well. See, there I go, trying to put it in first gear for a 13 or 18 speed, which is not where first gear is in a 10 speed. Granted, it's only second, but still, I don't want to start there. So I had the wheel for less than a month, I think, before I ordered the shift knob for it. Like I said, this is a Tech Affliction Mega Shifter. I had looked into the SKRS from CSIO, and basically what I found was people saying that they would order one, and then they would hear nothing. And months later, months would go by, and they would still hear absolutely nothing. They would have no update on their order, they wouldn't be able to get a hold of the guy, and maybe one would show up 6 months later, maybe not. I've talked to at least a couple of people who ordered something and just never got it. Meanwhile, people seem to be recommending Tech Affliction because not only is the guy active on Reddit, he's easy to get a hold of, his website has status, but most importantly, people seem to be getting their orders, and when they are expected. So I made the decision to order from Tech Affliction for when he had a Christmas sale going on. I got saved $10 on the shifter. And I'm honestly really glad that I did, because I've been extremely happy with it. Prior to this, I was using the paddle shifters on the wheel to shift to as my range select and my splitter. And it works well, it's serviceable, but the problem is when you're turning and you've got the wheel upside down, now those paddles are reversed and you've got to follow them around the wheel as you go. So if you ever need to shift on a turn, it's a lot to think about. Okay, what's my wheel orientation? Which paddle does which thing? And it just wasn't ideal. And plus I'd like to use those paddles. Oh, there we go. I'd like to use the paddle shifters for other things. Like right now I have them bound to wipers and brights, which feels a little bit more like an actual steering wheel stock in a vehicle. So I ordered this 18-speed shift knob, and I mean, yeah, it was a lot of money. It was kind of hard to stomach, but like I said, I've been extremely happy with it. It didn't take me too long to get used to it. You've got your range select on the front here and your splitter on the side. They're in the same place, and another really nice little benefit that I didn't think about at first was when you look at your wheel and you're using paddle shifters for range select and splitter, you can't tell what gear you're in just by looking at them because they return to the same position after you pull them. With this shift knob, you can look at it or just feel it with your hand, and you know whether you're in the low range or the high range, and you know whether you've got split into direct drive or overdrive. So you don't need to have that readout in the game telling you which gear you're in. You can just figure it out on your own quite easily, which I really quite like. It means for trucks like this, I don't need to have that computer info display. It wouldn't have one, and there's no reason to put it in here. Really, I just wanted to stick a phone to the windshield for my maps. I mentioned I've been playing this and I've logged hundreds of hours in it. I really haven't done much in the way of content for it, and there's kind of a reason for that. Whenever I do videos for YouTube, I always ask myself a couple of questions. One is, can I do this better than the other people who are already making this content on YouTube for this game? And if I can't do it better, what can I do differently? What can I do to make myself stand out? And for the longest time, the answer has been, well, nothing. You've got guys like Casket Man and Squirrel who do mod reviews and news updates, and they do a very good job of it. Their videos are high quality, their commentary is much better than mine, I'm sure. And they kind of, they have it covered. People like Junior Senior Gaming, they make all the kinds of videos that I would be making. And my opinion has always been, if you want that kind of video, just go watch the people who do it best. So so I haven't bothered making too much content. But now that I have my own engine mod out, it gives me something different, something that the other guys aren't necessarily doing. I'm not going to see a video by Squirrel or Casket Man reviewing my Cummins NH220. I just don't believe that's going to happen. So I might as well make some of my own. The only videos I've done so far have been somewhat different scenarios where I'm trying to pull a very heavy load that I shouldn't be pulling, either up a crazy mountain or with this tiny engine again, because they're a little bit different, and I haven't seen anything quite like that on YouTube so far. So this is kind of my first attempt at just making a video that people make videos like this already. This is a very Casket Man or Squirrel style video, and I'm not really sure whether people will like it, whether they'll want to watch it or not, but we're going to give it a shot. Because I figure if this is what I'm putting my time into, I might as well make a video of it. Maybe people will like it, who knows. So already this has been a very interesting change of scenery from the desert of the Southern American states. Driving around New Mexico and Arizona, like you almost don't even know when you've crossed from one into the other, because they are very, very similar. The terrain doesn't change a whole lot, it's just desert. And yeah, that's accurate, but it gets very samey. And that's one of the reasons that I play as much Euro Truck as I do, is because, especially with Pro Mods, there are some very unique places to go and see, very beautiful places to go. If you've ever driven to Iceland in Euro Truck's Pro Mods, it's unique. There's nothing like it in the base game, there's nothing like it in this game. And it's challenging, and it's just a lot of fun. You'll spend a bunch of time there just wanting to do jobs that stay in Iceland, driving around, enjoying every minute of it. And then you come back to American Truck Simulator and you get on these flat, wide open roads, and yeah, it's nice to be going fast, and I definitely prefer this style truck, but there's so much less variation. Now, I mean, look at this. Like, you've got mountains and trees and all kinds of different things. And yeah, sure, the quality is not quite there compared to what SES makes, but I mean, that's what you get with mods. You have to kind of accept that you're not going to get quite the same level of quality as you would from paid DLC. Because these projects are spare time passion projects. That's kind of what modding is. But already I'm quite enjoying this. This is very different. You've got these passes through the rocks that have been blasted through. You know, there's sheer drop off right here that you don't really get in too many places. And vanilla map. On these windy roads, which are a lot of fun to traverse. Hello, cat. This A-pillar here is like right in my way, especially then combined with the air cleaners, with the snorkel air cleaners. I figured the snorkel air cleaners would be a good move for Mexico, thinking I might end up on some dusty, dirty roads. And this is an Australian truck where those snorkels are more or less essential. You need to get your air intake up as high as possible, especially if you're trucking through the outback. So far it hasn't been necessary, it's just been blocking my view, but I do like the way they look, and I do think I'll keep them. So we're holding here just under 40 miles an hour, which is, I feel like, a good speed for this road. Ah, look at this, trees. You know, I missed that. Driving around the vanilla map, you get trees in a couple of places. There's a northern route from Farmington to Raton in New Mexico, and then up in Northern California in the Eureka area. Redding to Eureka, that road up there is just beautiful. But the rest of the map, little shrubs, lots of brown, lots of desert. Don't go off the road. Alright, let's see about shifting here. We're getting the warning for a winding road, so I think we're going to be shifting right back. Hello, cat. So we are cruising along in 8th gear. Even though I don't have any kind of readout or display, it's nice, like I mentioned earlier, I can just kind of look and see. I can feel where my range select is and then look at where the shifter is and know pretty quickly which gear I'm in. Which I didn't have with the paddle shifters, and I would routinely get that mixed up and forget which range I was in. And then wonder why I couldn't find the next gear. There's a bit of a steep corner, or a sharp corner. You really got to keep your RPMs up. If they drop below 1500, you just lose all power. Look at that road. Look at that map. One of those places you just don't want to not... Oop, taking out signs. Trying to stay wide so I'm not dragging the digger over the lines here, and took out a sign. Oh well, I suppose that's why I have the bull bar on the front, because I'm not going to run into any kangaroos. Pepsi truck. So we are making a left. And looking at that map, this should be fun. I think it's going to be more of the same here. Hey, at least the road's paved, right? Like I said, I was expecting dirt. This is just much windier than anything you'll find in the vanilla map. It's quite nice. I like it. I'm kind of glad I didn't take something heavier right now. Be struggling to get up all around all these corners. One of the nice things about an unsynchronized transmission is your downshifts are faster than anything you could possibly do with a synchronized transmission. On the flip side, your upshifts can be a bit slower because you don't have the help of the synchros to bring your RPMs down faster. So let's say you're climbing a hill and you're starting to accelerate and you're starting to make progress and you want to shift up a gear. Depending on the size of that hill and how much weight you have behind you, you might slow down faster than your RPMs fall naturally, and making it totally impossible to get into the next gear. With synchros, the synchronizers will will artificially slow your RPMs faster for you, making it possible to shift up, even on a steep grade with a heavy load. It's a situation I found myself in a couple of times in Eurotruck, pulling loads that are much heavier than I ought to be taking. Oh boy. Every time I think I can speed up a little bit, the road just reminds me, nope, you're not doing that. You're getting lots of practice up or downshifting, I should say. But yeah, that's the nice thing about the unsynchronized transmission, is there's no waiting for your synchros to line up so you can slide it into gear. You can get your selector into gear. You can shift as fast as you can rev match with your foot. Oh boy. Slow it down a bit more. Whoop. There we go. Go even slower here. Can't corner and brake and shift all at the same time. I just don't have enough hands. The fun part is, like I mentioned before, this would have been a dual transmission truck back in the day. Either an air, well, it might have been an air shift, being Australian, but at least in the US it would have been a twin stick. So not only would you be shifting with one hand, you'd actually have to manage two sticks, either with one hand or with both hands, taking them both off the wheel. And driving a truck like that is a real skill. It's an art form. You know, here I am fumbling with a little 10-speed single stick. Meanwhile, they were doing 2 or sometimes even 3 sticks in the real thing. Kind of get a whole new respect. Oh, here we go. This should be interesting. Am I going to have to shift? I don't want to, because if I miss it, you know what happens. I have to stop and start all over again, and I don't think I'm going to get rolling on this hill. So we're just going to hold it here in 6th gear. There we go. Up and around. And this is really something. It's getting dark. Bring our RPMs down a little. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, peak horsepower at 2100 RPM, and it falls off sharply below that. So when you're climbing a hill, you want your RPMs high to keep that momentum going, to climb up the hill without having to downshift, hopefully. But if it does fall, like I mentioned, peak torque is made at about 1500. It's once you start falling below that that you run into issues. Man, look at this. The forest is getting thick and it's getting dark. And it's not even the time of day, it's just the foliage in the mountain. That's pretty cool. Alright, we are out. And there's our destination right ahead. Just gonna roll down this hill. We're just up the road here. Well, that was fun. Imagine doing that as your daily commute. It'd be a whole lot more interesting than the flat terrain I'm used to. This truck only has a blinking light for the turn signal. How do you even know which way it's blinking? You don't. Well, I think I managed all right with the 10-speed. I actually remembered what the layout was this time. The first couple of trips I took with this, I was forgetting constantly. And here we are, the floating indicator. Alright guys, where do you want it? Up there? Is that up high? I'm just gonna go take a little walk over that way and have a look. I think that's up here. Yeah, that's this one. So I want to make sure I come up this hill over here. That should be nice and easy. Famous last words. As I put it in the wrong gear. Oh yeah, this way. How helpful. We're just going to roll along in first gear. Climb this hill nice and slow. As close to 2,000 RPM as we can manage. Look at this. Wow, that's that I feel sorry for whoever's here to pick up that load. Did I go the wrong way? I think I might have. I totally did. My load's down there. I took the wrong ramp. Alright, let's go around for a drive. It's a tour. Start it in second. It's been a while since I've delivered to this particular point. Drop-off point. I think I do that every time. I think I'm supposed to go up the hill and I'm not. Yeah, see there it is right over there, but I don't want to back up. Oops, turn on my wipers. I don't want to back up all that way. I'm just going to drive around again, take another pass at it. The nice flatbed trailer mod. The only downside is I find that it gives me empty loads like that one all too often, and then it doesn't even rate them for the weight of the trailer. It rates them at 0 pounds. I might as well be bobtailing it, right? If I'm going to pull something the game thinks weighs nothing. But the stuff that's on it is usually quite nice and interesting, and the trailer is very well modeled. I'm very much looking forward to trailer ownership in the next update. I don't know really anything about how they plan to do it, I just know that I think it'll be fun. I trust SES to do a good job with it and to make it enjoyable. And I think it should add some variety to the gameplay, which will be really welcomed. Alright, so we're headed right back there. So the one nice thing, the one similarity between the 13, 18, and 10-speed layouts is that reverse is in the same place on all three. Left and up. Nice and easy. I'm expecting this to be somewhat interesting with these mirrors. A little wide, but that's okay. We can straighten that out. Just need to come over a bit this way. First gear, not second. Bring it in a little closer this time. Too much. There we go. That should do the job nicely. Hey, look at that. They're going to accept that. Well, the truck's a bit crooked, but the trailer's in. Hey, if they're going to take it, they can have it. And I'm late, just like I figured. And they docked me... Wow! I'm so late that they just didn't pay me for that job. I hauled that digger all the way here for them, and they didn't even pay me for it. Go figure. But in all seriousness, that's one of those things I found with this game and how it estimates time. It kind of assumes that you're in, you know, the base vanilla map where everything is wide and open and flat and there's no real tricky terrain. It just kind of assumes that you're going to have no issue hitting the speed limit and staying there. Whereas you saw me, you know, floating at 30 or 40 miles an hour or slower in a lot of places. And the speed limit was 55. So it's assuming I'm going to be going 55 and giving me time based on that. Meanwhile, I'm going half that speed for part of it. So yeah, there was no way I could do that job on time. But I'm a little, you know, they find, like, I basically owe them. You know, looking at how much money I made here, 15 for the base, and then another, just about, yeah, another 10 or so here. Yeah, they penalized me an extra $5,000 over what I should have been paid for the job. And I would have lost a lot of experience. That's just horrible. Imagine showing up with a digger and they say, "You're so late, you owe us." Anyway, I think that'll about do it for this video. Thanks a lot for tuning in and watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll be able to do a little more like this in the future. Take care.